What's going on, everybody? This is Jason back in not the basement, I'm outside. It's a beautiful day on the East Coast, so I thought I'd be outside. My family is over there in our backyard hanging out, so I said let me get some time outside on a beautiful day and do the vlog outside. So wanted to do a quick video about the new release of the Fujifilm X and just my thoughts on it. First impressions. My wife is waving at me over here, so I'm waving back. So just want to do my first impressions of that and just have thoughts about it. So as a person who's always been a Fujifilm user and fanboy, I always thought it was great that Fujifilm has always released interesting products, things that are a little off the beaten path, and the X half is no stranger to that methodology. And so here's what I think about it. At first glance, it's a camera you think is kind of like a waste of time. Let's be honest. It has no RAW support. It's JPEG only, obviously. And then the flash is LED, which can't freeze subjects. And then you have a cold shoot instead of a hot shoot. So it's very, very limited, extremely limited. Let me adjust my ND. We got the sun is changing on me. So it's very limited in that regard. And with that being said, I think that the best use case for the X half is really as an Instax camera. Because when you think about it, it's one of the few cameras that can print directly to the Bluetooth Instax printers. And when you think about the aspect ratio of it being a half frame, it's going to print to that vertical Instax Mini in particular very well. And then when you also frame up the Instax wide shots, which are twice the mini shots, it's going to frame that up pretty well too. So I think that's the best use case for the X half as an Instax camera. And if you already have a Bluetooth Instax printer, you get the X half, and now you have a higher resolution camera that already frames properly for that format of printing. Now you probably say to yourself, well, why not just use your phone? Well, the issue with your phone is it's a distraction device, right? It has all these other things that it does. So you're not gonna get, excuse the noise, I'm outside, so, but it's a distraction device. It does a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's gonna be a distraction for it being just a camera. You don't have a viewfinder, that if that bothers you or not is, it's just personal preference. And it's still not shooting in that half frame vertical format for just the Instax Mini format. So there are some differences, film simulations, things like that. And judging by the reviews that I've seen so far, the image quality isn't necessarily that great. And probably your phone is going to do better considering all the features that they get now on phones. But I think having a dedicated camera is still something people want. And if you're an Instax user, you can print directly to the printer right off the bat. Your phone can do that too, but you're getting a dedicated camera to do that with. So like for me as a semi-pro professional, if I use it with a client who isn't into photography the way that I am, they don't know anything about instant prints most of the time. And they don't know about the camera being a certain, quality or being able to print directly to the printer. They don't know anything about that kind of stuff. So for them, it's just going to be, a cool thing that looks cool and it can be a high value proposition to them to get those prints right then and there on the spot with a camera. It looks like, because you could use your phone and do the same thing. But everyone has a phone, so there's no differentiation there in terms of getting the print from your phone or getting it from a camera, because me personally, I actually use the older shared printers, and I will print from my Fujifilm APS-C cameras and print those kind of same prints for clients. So I get the mystique there. Now, if you're someone who, you know, the price point of the X-Half is another issue, is that you could just get an old shared printer and get an old X series camera for the same price and have a better quality camera with interchangeable lenses and a printer and get the same output. So that's the issue, I think, that you have with the X-Half as a whole, is that I use an XT10, an old camera, and I use a Instax SP2, which is an old share printer with Wi-Fi only. It doesn't have Bluetooth, but it prints directly from the XT10 and any other, you know, X series camera for that matter, even the new one. So I think the issue is Fuji should have addressed the whole market of their Instax lineup to print even the Bluetooth printers from every camera that they have now, and something like an X-Half wouldn't even really need to be in existence, because the quality of your APS-C camera and the shots you can get with interchangeable lenses and all these other things are going to be way better than the X-Half, right? Even your phone is going to be better. So I think the idea is novel, but I think the execution should have been with a better camera, right? If you're going to dedicate a camera to just be able to print to all the Bluetooth Instax printers, you should have got a better camera that people would have been willing to pay $850 for, because that's what, you know, that's a lot of money for something that can't shoot. You can't take those photos and conceivably have them in the future as negatives because there's no RAW, right? Because 18 megapixels on a 1-inch sensor is not so bad, right? I think we could all live with that had it had other features on the camera, you know. But here's what I would do if I was to make a, you know, the future iteration of an X-Half camera. For one, I'd keep the X-Half and maybe I'd call it instead X Mini. And that way I would dedicate that one to be shooting half frame as it is today, but really market it to let people know that it's going to print to an Instax Mini format in terms of the film, right? It's dedicated to that. Definitely give it a legitimate flash, a hot shoe, and also maybe have a 1-inch sensor interchangeable lens system with RAW, you know. And I think you could have a whole market that would be dedicated to printing Instax prints with 1-inch sensor cameras, which is more than enough for Instax print, because you're really thinking about the end result, the output of the Instax print, right? And I think if we dedicate 1-inch sensors to doing that in particular, I think it would work out, right? And it would be worth the money. So, excuse me, I think it's a bug, a bug playing around with me. Anyway, if you dedicate that 1-inch sensor and you have interchangeable lenses that can go with, so you can get, you know, because what's on it now is a 28 millimeter, but what if you want to do portraits? Maybe a 50 millimeter equivalent, and you're good to go there. And then I would make another iteration that would be more dedicated to the wide format, because I think that is where the money maker is going to be for Fujifilm, for the enthusiast market. People want those big prints. The minis are cool because the camera is going to be, you know, for the actual physical print cameras, having the mini size is easier to carry. But now that you have a digital camera, you could actually make instead of a half frame, you could actually still do the 3x2 or something similar, 4x3, a landscape format that would print to the wide film directly with those. You know, I have an Instax Link wide, and other than my phone and transferring photos from the camera to the phone and then printing it, I don't have anything that can dedicate to that like I can with the share printers. I do have the XS10, which I'm shooting on right now, which is said to print directly to the XS10, but every time I try it, it takes extremely long time because Bluetooth is way slower than Wi-Fi. It's more convenient because the connection is more solid, but it's a much smaller signal than what Wi-Fi is. So somehow they have to have a really strong, dedicated system that will work to print that. So I think an X wide could be a future iteration. So, well, anyway, this video is too long at this point. I'm gonna stop it right here. Let me know your thoughts. What is your opinion on this new X half camera? What do you think they should do in the future? All right, talk to you on the next one.